The door chime of Silas's Chronos atelier played a delicate, discordant tune as Mr. Julian Thorne entered, cradling a dark, imposing 18th-century French mantle clock. Thorne was known less for his passion for horology and more for his predatory instinct in the auction world. Silas, the repairman, sat at a workbench littered with brass shavings and tiny springs. His eyes, magnified by a jeweler's loupe permanently settled on his brow, were clear and sharp. "Ah, the Pendule Cathédrale," Silas murmured, gently taking the clock. "A genuine piece of the consulate period. Magnificent condition." "Magnificent, yes," Thorne agreed, leaning over the bench. He spoke with the easy, confidential tone of a man sharing a secret. "But it has a subtle hitch, Silas. The escape wheel is slightly binding. The third tooth, I believe." Thorne carefully reached into his inner pocket and produced a small, velvet-lined box. Inside lay an exquisitely crafted, gleaming replacement escape wheel. It shone with a cold, pristine brilliance that contrasted sharply with the patina of the clock's interior. "Now, Silas, I'm rushing to catch an international flight," Thorne said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I need you to serve as the movement fully clean. Oil everything, but while you're at it, swap this new wheel in. I want absolute perfection when it goes to auction next week. I'll pay double your usual rate, cash, deposited into a numbered account of your choosing. No questions asked." Silas didn't touch the new part. He simply looked from the flawless brass wheel to Thorne's eager, almost desperate face. The quiet rhythm of the atelier, the faint tick of 200 different timepieces, seemed to slow down. "You are a very thoughtful man, Mr. Thorne," Silas said, his voice as smooth and even as old clock oil, but with a sudden, cold undertone. "Most collectors simply ask me to clean the part, hoping I won't notice when they retrieve the original to swap for a lesser, weight-modified piece later. You, however, came prepared to remove the original before the service, ensuring I never lay eyes on it again." Thorne stiffened immediately, his professional veneer cracking like thin ice. He drew back, his hand hovering over the velvet box. "I beg your pardon? I am trying to ensure historical accuracy and mechanical integrity for a very important sale." "This is slanderous." "No, Mr. Thorne. You're trying to boost the clock's potential value by 5 or 6 figures, based on the principle of complete originality," Silas stated, lifting the heavy French clock gently onto a padded pedestal. He opened the back plate, exposing the dense, complex mechanism. "You know, the original wheel that should be in there has a tiny, microscopic imperfection, a slight burr on that third tooth, exactly as you described. That imperfection is catalogued, photographed, and essential to proving its history." Silas adjusted his loupe. "Your plan was simple and frankly clever. You plan to pressure me into swapping the wheel now, take the original faulty piece with you, then have the replacement I installed documented as the repaired original. You would then sell the pristine, actual original wheel on the secondary market as a genuine spare part from a de-accession clock, while pocketing the full sale price of the now perfect original clock. Double profit. Total concealment." Silas set the clock down and looked directly at the collector, the loupe giving his eye an unnerving, magnified intensity. "The replacement wheel you brought is lovely. It's too lovely, in fact. It is milled from pure, modern C360 brass alloy, using a 5-axis CNC machine, flawless. Yes, but impossible for an 1807 artisan. Furthermore, it has a density rating of 8.52 grams per cubic centimeter, while the rest of this movement uses a period-specific, high copper alloy, darkened by trace impurities and rated at 8.7 grams per cubic centimeter. The difference, though minute, would throw off the clock's isochronism over time. You thought I would miss the $0.18 gram per cubic centimeter difference in a component smaller than a thumbnail." Thorne, now visibly sweating beneath his perfectly sculpted hairline, stumbled backward. I bought it in good faith. I was misled by a dealer in Geneva. How could you possibly detect a density difference so small without a spectrometer?" "I don't need a spectrometer, Mr. Thorne. I have 40 years of experience and a delicate set of precision jeweler's scales," Silas replied coolly. "More importantly, I use my own spectrometer, built right here in the back room, but I didn't need that either, because the chemical signatures are visibly different. even to the naked eye under a high-intensity lamp, once you know what to look for. Silas reached into the open back of the clock's movement and, using a pair of custom-made, non-magnetic carbon fiber tweezers, delicately lifted the escape wheel that Thorne had pointed out, the one with the visible burr on the third tooth. He held the wheel aloft, turning it slowly so the light caught the supposed defect. "This is the part you want to replace, yes? The faulty wheel that compromises the value?" "Yes, the defective one," Thorne hissed, his voice tight with desperation. His earlier confidence completely evaporated. A slow, knowing smile, devoid of humor but full of devastating satisfaction, spread across Silas's face. "Mr. Thorne, you are absolutely correct. This wheel is defective. It is imperfectly cut. It has the wrong alloy mix, the wrong density, and yes, that tiny burr you pointed out is deliberate and decorative." Silas brought his other hand up, revealing an identical escape wheel, also mounted on tweezers, but this one flawlessly gleaming with the rich, dark copper tones of genuine antique brass and possessing a perfect, razor-sharp tooth geometry. "You see, Mr. Thorne, the flaw is not on the clock's true original escape wheel. The true original, the 1807 piece, is this one, in my left hand." He nodded toward the faulty part in his right. "The one you are trying to switch out is a replica." Silas gently placed the flawed replica, the one he'd just taken from the clock, back into the velvet box Thorne had brought. "I made the replica wheel myself, 40 years ago. It's my signature, my anti-theft watermark," Silas explained, the gravity of his words settling on Thorne like a lead weight. "I was once burned by a dealer who stripped a clock bare after I certified it. After that, I instituted a policy. I replace one critical, easily accessible wheel in every major antique that passes through my care, specifically those clocks valued over $250,000, like this Pendule la Cathédrale." He tapped the replica with his tweezers. "I forge a perfect replica, introduce one very subtle, specific and repairable flaw like this burr, which looks like a milling accident but is actually a precisely placed micro-incision that matches the collector's manual specifications, but not the actual period craftsmanship. The catalog states a burr is likely due to the era's tooling. I ensure one is present to match the documentation, but I make sure its composition betrays its age. When a true enthusiast brings me a clock, they ask me to fix the burr, knowing it's a non-structural flaw they can negotiate down. When an unscrupulous dealer or profiteer comes in, they invariably, confidently, and with great urgency, demand the entire part be swapped out so they can retain the perfect original. Silas now held the true original wheel, the one in his left hand, just inches from Thorne's face. It was the heart of the clock's value. "I remove the true original, this perfect piece, document it, store it in my vault, and install the flawless replica with a designed, detectable flaw. When the clock leaves, it is 99.9 original, but the one piece most likely to be targeted for substitution is mine." The moment you demanded the wheel be swapped, you identified the specific defect, confirming you had prior, detailed, non-public knowledge of the clock's movement, likely from an insider at the consignor's end. Silas concluded. "You didn't want the replica fixed. You wanted the key to my trap. You failed." Silas dropped the original wheel, the perfect 1807 piece, back into the velvet box and handed it, along with the faulty replica, to the stunned collector. Thorne took the box, his fingers shaking, unable to process the total inversion of his scheme. He had walked in with a worthless modern replacement and was leaving with a flawed replica and the priceless real component, all pieces of evidence. "Congratulations, Mr. Thorne. You are the second person in 4 decades to fall for my little test. The only fake component in your entire genuine 18th century timepiece was the one I put there in 1985, 2 years after I opened the atelier, specifically to catch a thief. And now that you've tried to swap it, I'll be alerting the auction house to your ethical standards, informing them you attempted to strip a key historical component and substitute it with a modern counterfeit." Silas placed the now empty, priceless clock back on his bench, the silence in the room heavy with Thorne's defeat. "You can keep the real wheel," Silas added, nodding to the velvet box. "It is now irrefutable evidence of your intent." "I'm afraid I cannot, in good conscience, complete the repair for you, as I cannot entrust my work or this invaluable artifact to someone who values profit over preservation. I will, however, be charging you a $5,000 consultation and integrity testing fee. You may pay that on your way out." Thorne backed away, stumbling slightly over a stool, his eyes wide, his carefully constructed career in the high-end antique market crumbling around him. He hadn't just failed. He had failed spectacularly, right into a trap laid 4 decades ago by a man he dismissed as a humble craftsman. The magnificent Pendule la Cathédrale remained on the bench, awaiting the hands of an honest horologist.